Hello, and we want to welcome you to our webcast today. This is Dr. Tony Evans, the Senior Pastor of Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship, President of the Urban Alternative, and we're here on our church campus hosting a gathering of church leaders in our Leadership Expo. This is the time we have each year where we welcome these leaders to come and take advantage of all that we have to offer. These are men and women who've been exposed to our ministry nationally through the Urban Alternative and want to partake of our desire to serve them in taking what God has given us here in Dallas and making it available to them for use in their own ministries through the various ministries of Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship and the Urban Alternative. But we're happy today to be welcoming also our guest on this webcast where we're going to talk about the benefits of church-school partnership. If you followed our ministry for any length of time, you know that that is a major thrust that we're pushing across the nation, and that is the adoption of schools in order to reach the young people who are at risk and their families through mentoring, tutoring, and family support services that those churches and ministries are able to provide. There are at least 3 churches at every public school in America. And so if you create a dating service between those ministries, the school, and their families, that's church, school, and family, that's the hub of any community. And so one of the best ways, in our view, to reach a community is through that kind of partnership. And you really don't have to create anything new. You just have to create a dating service. And you connect them for maximum impact. And given the breakdown of the family, the needs in our families, the amount of children who are growing up without a solid nuclear environment in which to grow, and the fact that now schools are inheriting not only the academic responsibility, but the social services because of the needs in so many of these homes. This is a way that God's people can become mothers to the motherless and fathers to the fatherless in a tangible, visible, verifiable, validatable way. So we want to welcome all of those who are following us on the internet, as well as those who are already gathered here for our Leadership Expo. And I'm going to turn it over to Charles Wolford. Charles Wolford is our pastor of outreach here at Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship. He oversees the social outreach ministry, which we call the Turnaround Agenda, that services the 50 schools that our church has adopted here in Dallas. And he's also one of our trainers nationally with the Urban Alternative when it comes to training other churches and ministries on the Church Adopted School Partnership. So, Charles, we're going to turn it over to you and welcome.
Well, thank you, Dr. Evans. Welcome to this webcast. We're so excited that you have joined us and will be participating in this interesting conversation of the benefits of partnering with schools. As you are following us, we want to encourage you, if you're following us along the web, to follow us on Twitter at #ChurchSchoolPartnership. Again, that's #ChurchSchoolPartnership. So we'd encourage you to send questions and to follow us along and give us comments. The audience will be participating as well a little bit later with giving us questions that we will be able to respond to. But let me introduce our distinguished panel that will give us some opportunities just for discussion. To my right is Dr. Tony Evans, of course, the founder of Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship Church, the president and CEO of the Urban Alternative. We're so grateful for you being here today and can't wait to pick your brains and get some nuggets about why this ministry started. We also have Suzanne Trahan, who's a friend of the ministry and is doing just some outstanding work with Reach for Hope. And so we're excited about you being here. We know that her heart burns for this ministry. She and her husband are co-founders of Reach for Hope, and we're just excited about their participation being with us today. So welcome, Susan. We're excited that you are here. And then, of course, Bob Brunick, who is here with us. We're excited that you're here, Bob, as well. Bob, former NFL Dallas Cowboys great. We're excited that you're here to participate with us. Bob Brunick is also the chairman of his elders board at his church, and we are just elated that you have joined us. And let me start with you, Dr. Tony Evans, as far as an introductory comment. Tell us why you believe there are benefits of churches partnering with schools.
Well, first and foremost is we have seen it in our own environment. This started, 28 years ago or so when we adopted our first public school located about a mile from our church because they were having truancy problems and academic concerns and family breakdowns and some gang activity. So we just sent some men over there to walk the halls, to interface with the students, to be there at lunchtime. And the principal told me there was a major shift in the atmosphere of that school by the church's mere presence. And when we began to see that, and when we began to look at some of the services that the church could offer these young people and their families, and began to invest in that school, we began to see the whole atmosphere of the campus change, and it created an outreach opportunity to the families who are also part of the community. So that principal got promoted to be head of the district. The district was 18 schools. He called me up and asked would we adopt the whole district. Wow. So one school became 18 schools. Long story short, that became over 50 schools where we have some presence with mentoring, tutoring, family support services. And as our church grew, and as the services of our church grew, then the school became a natural conduit to focus a lot of that attention, because it's a built-in constituency that also opens up the opportunity for the gospel. And so we've learned through trial and error how to codify it, how to use it as a mechanism, and now we're seeing churches around the country take this initiative. In fact, we have some towns where all the schools have been adopted by the churches. Wow. And so I'm seeing this as a major, it's really good works, opening up an opportunity for the good word, the gospel, and when the two are blended together, it gives the church a social outreach, a spiritual outreach, and a community impact.
That's awesome. So then the local church being the context for really understanding the principles of churches benefit schools. So there's many people who've come and been trained in this concept as well. And so of those, both Bob and Suzanne have been a part of that. Suzanne, share with us your work with regards to adopting schools.
Well, 5 years ago, my husband and I just sold our business, and we were serving the homeless. And we were looking around for children in this area of South Dallas, pretty impoverished area, and said, where are the children? Where are the children? No children. So we started asking people, where are they? Well, it wasn't safe enough for them to come out. So we, on Saturday, started going down and popped up a tailgate tent and just with some friends of ours from church, said, let's go out, let's just go. So we played praise and worship music. We had a Bible study and a craft for the kids that day for whoever showed up. First day, nobody showed up. Next Saturday, 4 children showed up. Weekend after weekend, it just grew to not only children, but to moms and grandmothers and so forth. And so that has transitioned from us just going to a lot, literally to be there and love on children and meet basic needs that they had, to an after-school program where we have adopted 2 schools. And so I guess maybe in the not traditional model of actually having a physical church in the neighborhood, we have brought people to be the church in this neighborhood. And as we've adopted 2 schools, we've just seen teachers be so burdened by the atmosphere and the culture in which they are just challenged by too great, really, of a responsibility to teach children and meet so many needs that the smallest amount that we can provide and help, even if it's encouragement and support, are just showing up. One-on-one tutoring, we've seen the benefits. We've received the benefits, and we've seen them receive the benefits.
Wow, that's awesome. Bob, as the chairman of your elders board, you all attended training, and you have taken this ministry and done some implementation of that. Talk with us about how you and your church made that decision to start adopting schools, and what are the benefits that you've seen from that, Bob?
Yeah, and I might add, too, that my orientation is I've been a member of Tony Evans Ministries, Urban Alternative, for over 30 years now, and I've watched this evolve in theory around the country, but had not participated in directly. But it turns out that my church that I attend, Fellowship Bible Church Dallas, is right in Midtown Dallas, and it sits right on Central Expressway. And on the west side of Central Expressway are many millionaires. It's one of the wealthiest zip codes in America. But on the east side of Central Expressway are 10,000 refugees and 50 languages spoken, and people coming and going from many, many countries, and a lot of poverty and a lot of social stress and a lot of economic stress. So we didn't have to travel far to find it. And there's a high school centered right in the middle of that neighborhood that I'm describing. So as it turns out, we had an interest in that school, in that neighborhood. You know, you ask the question as a church, if you ever left the neighborhood, would they care? You know?
Right,
So
right.
we ask that question regularly. What are we doing in the neighborhood to make a difference? And so we have a unique challenge with that kind of population next to us. And so to sort all that out, we, some of the members of our church, and me too, we came and sat through an orientation conference here a couple of years ago just to get that started. And we're now into the second year of it, and we've had, I think, really good success with it. We're seeing already an impact on the school and the difference in the principal and the way he thinks. And for us, too, as a church, to be able to turn and say, hey, we're doing something significant in the neighborhood. It's not without its challenges. I think in our first year, we had 25 or so mentors and maybe 60 mentees. That's kids. And so how do you work that out? Is it on campus, off campus? But it turns out some of those kids were already going to our church, and now there's more. Yeah. And so, and there's more parents coming as a result of that. So we're seeing it begin to get traction. It's just an awesome process. And so that's how we've been involved.
Well, you've heard Dr. Evans mention in America there's over 350,000 churches, which represents about 19,000 school districts, another 98,000 schools across the country. So the question is, if a church is interested in partnering with a school, what's the starting point? And I'm going to direct that to you, Susan. Where would a church and an organization, where do they start?
You know, the way we started with schools is as we received donations, or as our children said, you know, we're doing an art project at school, but Joe and Sue and Zanaya aren't able to participate. And I would question why. Well, they don't have the materials. And so they're sort of shoved to the side and they color. Now, we might be doing a science project over here that's fabulous, and they're coloring, and that just broke my heart. That something so simple, a need that could be met so simply, was not, really just for a lack of awareness. There's hundreds of people who would have met that need, but they just didn't know it existed. So we simply went and met with the principal. We just called and asked for an appointment. It was very simple, and said, we are people here who love children who go to your school. We are very interested in supporting you and serving you and encouraging you in a way that you need, not in some way that we come forward with, but in a way that's meaningful to you. Can we come have 15 minutes? And that's really how it started with us. We went and we had 15 minutes, and let me tell you, there are so many needs, and they are so grateful to have someone who cares, and really who will just show up and listen and encourage and provide the simplest of things.
That's great. And Bob, to you, your church got started. How do you begin to vet volunteers and get them engaged to see the vision of the importance of a church adopting a school? What did you guys do to get your church and your membership engaged in that experience?
Yeah, and I will tell you at the beginning, it has a sense of being a little bit daunting. Sure. It does. And because you just, what do you do? How do you, what are the first steps? And they can be as simple as what Suzanne is describing. But the beauty of it is this conference is put on by the National Adopt School is just fantastic. And there's a book, and it tells you exactly how to do it and go forth, and gives you plenty of ideas and a pathway and a track to run on. And how is it you gather? How is it you orient? How is it you orient the mentees? How do you talk to the principal? All these things are out there for our use and resource. So from that standpoint, but the other thing too is just you've got to have, I think, some people that are called into it and have a sense for it. Maybe they live in the neighborhood, maybe they're nearby, whatever. And so you start out with maybe hosting an athletic banquet. Okay. We've had some volunteers go over and help coach some of the athletic teams. So you get to know some of the kids, so there's ways into it, formally and informally. And I think you just have to raise the awareness. Now, we're fortunate to be able to afford a full-time staff that's dedicated to this. And I know there's a staffing issue, too. With 50 schools, I know there's a big staff associated with that. So, but that's just come on lately up till now. But it takes an army of volunteers to do it. And an army of volunteers that are prayed up, have a heart for it, a calling to it. Like I would say, I met with three young men, a 15, a 16, and a 17-year-old. One was Liberian and two were African American. And I'm a 61-year-old white guy sitting at a table in the cafeteria. And I wondered if I was making connection or not. Now, they seemed to like it because they heard I was a cowboy. But after a while, I just turned out to be his old dad. You know? But like Jonathan was just saying earlier, you'll never know what was left, what deposits were left through the experience.
Absolutely.
Because we talked about a lot of things, and a lot of things come up in sports, and a lot of things come up in life. And as you get more and more comfortable, you become friends, you fall in love with these kids.
Absolutely.
I don't know if they fell in love with me, but I fell in love with them. And it's just a great process. But out of that comes much, and a lot of questions, and a lot more to do, other than just mentoring on campus. So there's a whole on-campus strategy, and there's a whole off-campus strategy to be talked about.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Well, if you're just joining us, we want to welcome you to this webcast. And again, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we ask you to go to hashtag Church School Partnership. And on the side of your screen, you will see where you can follow and also send us questions. So welcome. We're so glad to hear you. Dr. Evans, how is this? You guys have adopted over 50 schools here at Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship. And we've heard Bob and Suzanne talk about some of the infancy stages of what it's taken for them to get there. What would you, when you're talking to a church, a congregation of 25 members, we know that you started off with 10 in your home. How do you begin to cast vision if you're a small church? And then how scalable is this if you have a church of 25 or a church of maybe 10,000? Talk to us about that.
Well, one of the wonderful, exciting things I like about this initiative is its scalability. If you have a tiny church, then what you do is there's an elementary school near you. Okay? An elementary school is probably the easiest first place to start because you have greater parental involvement the younger the children are, because the more dependent they are. Once you develop a connection with the principal of that school, how can we, few as we are, serve your school? Is it just reading to the kids? Is it just having somebody to hug them, show up at lunch? So whatever little you can do based on what the principal needs and based on what the situation calls for in the community of that school, that's a place to start. When we started, we had, I think it was like 13 men go to the school. They were volunteers. 13 men went to the school, and it was just our presence that made the difference. Well, now, as the church has grown, that's become a $1.5 million initiative. Okay, so you start where you are. The Bible says, despise not the day of small things. So don't get worried that we're small, because most schools now need all the help they can get. And because so many of these kids are coming from dysfunctional homes, single-parent homes, they just need the image of something different. A big biblical word here is the word hope. Hope is joyful expectation about the future. Hope means where I'm going is better than where I've come from and where I am, that my tomorrow is going to be better than my yesterday. If you just have somebody who can give a kid hope in spite of the circumstances they can't change, so that they see the potential of a greater future, then you've given them something that money can't buy. And that as more people get involved, as the church grows, you built a relationship with the school, they know you, you know them, and so that whole ministry can grow simultaneously.
That's great. So then let's talk a little bit about volunteer and staff participation, of what that really looks like. And Susan, one of the experiences, even coming to your ministry and seeing the boots on the ground, the volunteer and the staff, they get attached to the students that they work with. Talk to us about that. What does that really look like, and how do you express that in ministry and serving when your heart starts getting tugged with this kid who won't let your leg go? They don't want to go home. Tell us about that experience.
Right. You know, it's a beautiful thing to watch. People who have a heart to serve and a heart for youth, children. We have teens that come to our after-school program as well, and some people really are drawn to teenagers too, which I love that. When they come, it is a little daunting, because the children that we see in our after-school program have such a host of burdens, truly, and they have come to a place where the relationships that they've built are consistent enough and loving enough that there's a trust relationship that's built, and so they feel free to share. And so one of the challenges, I guess, with our volunteers is that they needed to know how to respond to that. And Dr. Evans, we came to the training. It has been so valuable to have our leadership team come early in our cycle of our season of doing this, to really get some understanding of how to approach that, and and how to orient volunteers at the beginning so that they kind of know what to expect. Because truthfully, there is some anxiety. If I have been a person, like I'm a business person, and I just feel a heart to go serve, but I've never really done that before, and I've really never done it with a child in an at-risk situation, it's comforting to sort of be, have some armor, and to know I need to be prayed up, and to know what to expect. And so those are things that we've learned from you. We appreciate so much that you have gone ahead and cut this path so that organizations like ours, who just has a heart, to share and to serve and share Jesus really with children who are least and lost, we have the structure.
Yeah, okay.
We have some bones to it, you know what I'm saying? And so that, in our volunteer staff, that has really been helpful for us.
Yeah.
Because they come from all walks of life. I mean, we have retired folks, we have students from Dallas Baptist University who need service hours. We had an intern from Dallas Theological. We have a restaurant owner, a fireman. You know what I'm saying? These are people who are just from all walks of life, who are bold enough to show up and say, I'll do it. I'll take that step of faith, and I don't know what it's going to look like necessarily, but I'm going to do it.
That's great. That's good stuff.
It's a real blessing to watch not only how the children are poured into, but it goes both ways, how the adults are too, like Bob was saying.
That's very good stuff. And Bob even mentioned you were talking about mentoring. So that's, that can be somewhat of a daunting task. You're before a teenager, and, those of us a little older, we may not feel as if we can really relate. What does that look like? You were in a mentoring relationship. I think you said you had 3 young men. What does that look like on an ongoing basis to mentor these young men? And what was your structure to be able to do that?
Well, there are some topics in this training book that can guide you through that. I mean, whether it's schoolwork, or it's what's happening in their home life, and you got to be sensitive with that, because that can get, especially at first, until you've kind of won the right to be heard. It's not a lot of telling, it's a lot of asking.
Okay.
And sometimes they don't want to talk, and you've got to provoke that and be creative with that. Other times they want to talk about the things that you hadn't not had that day.
You weren't prepared.
They want to talk about the football game. No, we've got 29 minutes here, so we got. And so your dad face comes on. You go, no,
absolutely.
So, but I think one of the things that, and Tony referred to it, not subtly, but if you missed it, and Suzanne also said it too, it's the 2 hands of the gospel. One of my anxieties is when am I going to get to Jesus?
Okay.
In these products, it's not just a social service, because we know ultimately it's going to take Jesus in their life to change their life, to make their life different, going on a trajectory forward, right?
Absolutely.
So it's good to bring resources, bring ideas, bring information, create circumstances by which you can accommodate that progress. But ultimately, you want to get in a position where they're actually seeing Christ in the process. Absolutely. And these people are quite, they're at 15, 16, 17, they're quite able to understand who Christ is and his meta-narrative about life. So it is 2 hands, and you got to keep that in mind all the time, that we're moving to a place looking for arrangements by which we can get them to church, get them to our homes, get them in places by which we can share life on life, and that will transfer into an eternal goal. So it can be frustrating, because they they're young people, and they want to talk about fun stuff.
Absolutely,
and,
absolutely.
And you got to get them back on track and this sort of thing. So,
very good.
But there's a maturation process. I mean, there's a maturation in the process.
Okay.
That it requires time and investment. And as Suzanne was saying, there is some apprehension at the beginning how you do this, but I think once you get an army of volunteers pulled together, you're talking about it. We by the way, reconvened at least 2 times, maybe 3 times through the year, with all the mentors in a room with the leader of the program, and said, let's talk. How's it going?
Okay.
What's happening? What do you see? What should we do differently with this army of volunteers?
Okay.
And so that helps a lot too.
Is that a time for retraining as well? You kind of retool that during that time?
Yeah, you can, because I think we can all observe what's going on, and then certainly feed that into the leader, and then we can get maybe a reorientation at mid-year and redo.
Very good.
So,
well, if you're just now joining us on the World Wide Web, welcome. And again, if you want to follow us on Twitter, go to hashtag church-school partnership. We would love to get your questions. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions from the audience. We're getting some text messages and some emails for you guys. And so I'm going to direct this question at you first, Dr. Evans. How do you find out if a school is in need of this partnership? So where do you start? How, we may assume that school needs assistance. They may say no. So how do you begin to assess that?
Well, first of all, you should assume.
Okay.
You should assume.
Okay.
Just given what's happening in the culture,
Okay.
you can assume that. The first person you need buy-in from is the principal.
Okay.
Because he is the conduit to the school. And in most cases, we have never had a school turn us down. In fact, we cannot facilitate all the schools who want our presence because of the social family dynamic that's taking place today. So I would go get the pastor, so it's general to general,
Okay.
if it's a church, or the head of the ministry, to go sit down with the pastor and say, we would like to serve you. We would like to serve your school, your students, and your family to our ability. And then you ask the key question, what do you need?
Okay.
Because now you're speaking not just what I want to give, but I want to scratch where you itch.
Okay.
And so once he spills these 25 needs he has, whatever 2 or 3 or 5 you can begin to facilitate well, because you don't want to take 25 and do nothing well. You want to take what you can do well and begin to meet that, and he sees you are a friend meeting a need, then you have opened up the door to a long-term relationship to that school and to those families. And once that trust relationship is built between the pastor, the principal, the church, and the school, when you have events at the church where students can come or families can come, they will do like they do it here in Dallas. They will advertise our events at their school.
Yeah.
So they advertise our rallies or our youth events or our alternative, the Halloween Harvest Fest. And so we'll have all these kids from the community who go to the schools come to our events because of that relationship. And as a result of that, because they're now on our campus, we get to share Christ and do that. But that's because of the goodwill that's been built up through the meeting of their need at the school.
So this really entrance is really asking that school, how can I serve you?
Yes.
And you come with this servant's heart, and you're finding that opens the door for that school to really begin to invite you in, and you just love on them.
You just love on them, serve them at their point of need, love on those kids. I think of just one scenario among many of a young lady in one of our schools that just got loved on, a terrible home situation. But the mentor loved her and wrapped her arms around her. And to make a long story short, this girl who was a candidate to be a dropout has just finished college, working on a master's degree, getting ready to get married in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And I asked her, what are you going to do with your master's degree? She says, I'm going to become a school counselor so I can help other girls the way I was helped by my mentor.
Wow, that's amazing. What a testimony. Let's talk a little bit about training. One of the questions just came in, Susan, and both Bob and Suzanne, you can answer this question. So what type of training is needed, particularly as it relates for preparing for the young people that have all these issues? So do you have to be a social worker? Do you have to be a counselor or a therapist? Because the assumption is that these kids come with a lot of issues. So what type of training do you really need to start this?
Well, you start with being able to decide to love that kid.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a father of 4 grown children, so I've actually been a father. I'm qualified.
Okay.
I guess.
Those are your
I go ask them. Maybe if they're watching, stick with me, guys. But so in most cases we're qualified, and even if we're not parents, you're still qualified to be able to bring some resource into that relationship. And so, and it's not a matter of having these technical qualifications that you just listed. Okay. It's really just loving on the child and spending time with them. The great theologian Woody Allen said 90% of life is just showing up. And in fact, he said something truthful. Yeah. It is showing up and being present. Okay. And I don't want to minimize all the other things that are necessary, because tutoring is an important thing. Sure. Watching how these kids, by the way, there have been schools, and I know this documentation's available, where they've taken the baseline of the students that were being mentored, of their grade point and their presence in school, the absenteeism and this sort of thing, and measured that being mentored and then post mentoring, and it's improved dramatically. The statistics are just amazing. So that's all available.
Okay.
And the principals are glad to help share that and work with you. And I will add too with what Tony's, the principals just love to see it, because they're, especially at these highly stressed schools where the population is stressed. And there's, by the way, when we say single parent, it's usually there's no dads.
Yeah.
It's a lot of moms trying to help the kids get through. And in our case, there's a lot of different ethnicities. So language is an issue, language barriers, cultural barriers, all kinds of things take place there. But still, a 61-year-old white guy can walk in there and still be able to have some impact and influence and encouragement on 3 young men.
That's great.
15, it's just, it can happen. But showing up is about 90% of it.
Very good. Susan, you wanted to chime in on that?
I would agree with everything Bob said. Compassionate listening.
Okay.
I mean, love to a child is being there, being in their life, right? So we encourage just compassionate listening. We don't have to fix all their problems. Frankly, we can't fix their problems. And there's brokenness that only the Lord can heal.
Okay.
And so, clearly if there's abuse that they're sharing with us, then there's actually a process for reporting that, to Child Protective Services. And sadly, that is a reality sometimes that we have to do that. And our staff and volunteers know that process. But truly, the mentoring that we've experienced, that we see, it's just compassionate listening. Here's an example, so many I could share, but a first grader comes to the program and you can tell he's out of sorts, and why are you, what's going on? And just the fact that someone is asking him why and seeing his demeanor and that he's out of character. Well, there was a fight at home, and so mom took the children and they slept in the car in the parking lot of 7-Eleven all night. And then she got them to school, and so they've been to school, and now we get them.
Yeah.
And so by then we've had no sleep and we're hungry. We could care less about math or anything because we're sleepy and we're hungry. And so, we have the opportunity to say, well, would you just want to lay down?
Yeah.
And they do, and we cover them with a blanket and they sit right there and they take a little nap. But, it's not as big and complex, really, as one might think.
Okay. Yep. One of the questions gives a specific example of a school district and a city where it's difficult for entrance into a school district or a school without some level of certification. One, they vet your credentials, or they want to know your level of education to be able to come into the school. What qualifies Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship or Reach for Hope or Dallas Fellowship? What qualifies you all to come into a school and do the work that you're doing? So I'll let anybody jump in. What are the qualifications and credentials? And then if that is the case, what would you recommend for this particular school district?
Well, first of all, what qualifies us spiritually, which is where we want to start, is that we're under commandment to do good works.
Okay.
And good works in the Bible are beneficial things that help to improve the lives of others, for which God gets the glory. Okay? In fact, that's a unique Christian word, good works, because it's differentiated from good things. And the difference between a good work and a good thing is that a good thing is positive and helpful, but a good work God is engaged with. And so we're commanded to do good works. But what we do is we're bringing something to the table also that the schools, the kids and their families want and need.
Okay.
There's expertise in some of the personnel or volunteers that come. There is a heart that cares. There is a presence in the community, because that's why we encourage you to adopt or be engaged in something that's part of the community, so that you are now, like any business may adopt a school that because they want to do something positive in the community. Well, we want to do something positive where we live, work, and play, or at least where we worship. So what qualifies us is our mutual care for the well-being of this community. There's care for the family. Everybody's concerned about family at some level. Because we're caring for the family, that opens the door to say, how can we improve the family life of this child and or their relatives? And so as the church is able, it can offer family services which improves stability for families, which allows education to be more successful in the life of the kid. So all of those things makes you a qualified good works giver to this scenario.
Very good. Very. You guys want to chime in on that?
It's hard to prove on that one.
Yeah, I know.
I will
said
say,
it all.
go ahead, Suzanne.
I was going to say, I think Dr. Evans said it all. Really, it's, I think we underestimate what we can bring to children sometimes too. I mean, just showing up in a classroom and having a spirit of excellence upon how we're going to do this math problem. Well, we're not going to quit, and yeah, it's hard, and we're going to keep going. One person can just speak that into a child in that one situation or that one circumstance, and it does have an impact.
Sure.
I think we tend to minimize things like that, or being organized, or being prepared. And it doesn't necessarily, we don't have to be, rocket scientists to go and to share something meaningful and valuable with these children. And just, that I'm going to, when I talk to you, I'm going to speak to you with respect, and I'm going to look in your face, and I'm going to have eye contact. All these things seem so small, but socially, we need these things to be successful and have positive relationships with others. And so I think we just need to take that step out and do it. Be encouraged just to go share. What you have is enough. Absolutely. What you have to share through Christ is enough for that child.
And let me add one other thing.
Sure.
As I look at my two friends here, something is jumping out at me, and that is love trumps race.
Amen.
Both of you are working with minority kids. You're loving those kids, and the racial component has become subservient to being loved.
That's right.
And that's why we promote even non-African American churches who are burdened for what's happening in their community across the railroad track, so to speak, to engage with another church, to partner and to be engaged, because these kids need love. And if they can't get it there where they are in their homes, if they can get it from somebody else who will authentically give it, that will be the greatest reconciler and unifier we can give to a community.
That is so true.
And a great model too, Tony, because I think you go colorblind in your love. You do. You just fall in love with these kids. I've had some other experiences similar, and it surprises you that you just, man, all of a sudden, man, these kids are just really great. I just can't wait to get back and see them. What's next in the deal? So
I know that I'm the first white person that a lot of our children have ever known personally or felt comfortable to touch. And they ask the most beautiful questions that they know they can ask. Like they'll say, I don't know anyone with blue eyes. Something as simple as that. And I say, that's amazing, let's talk about that. But just that they have this comfortable, the barriers go away. And in mentoring, our experience has been just that children want to be attached to something good.
Sure.
And positive. They want to be a part of something. I mean, why is gang violence? Why are gangs so, on the rise? Well, it's because they want to be attached to something and belong to something. And because our culture is growing such that the family is continuing to break down and our fathers are absent, they don't feel plugged in, they don't feel connected, they're going to connect somewhere.
Absolutely.
And so if they can connect to a mentor or an organization where it's healthy and it's loving, they're all in. I've never heard a child say, I don't want a mentor.
Yeah, that's
ever.
That's
they want to. They love it so much, give me another one.
Amen. So let me just real quick, again, if you're just joining us on the web, welcome. We're so excited that you're a part of this webcast. Again, we have our great friends, Dr. Tony Evans, Senior Pastor of Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship Church, Suzanne Trahan, who is with Reach for Hope Ministry in South Dallas, and then we also have Bob Brunick, who is with Fellowship Dallas Bible Church, and we're just excited to have you all as friends and partners and as agents in this work. This is a great work. If you're following us on Twitter, we would encourage you to go to #ChurchSchoolPartnerships and send us questions. We're receiving additional questions from our audience, and we just want to respond to a few more of those. But let me resource you as well. If you need additional information, we would encourage you to go to TonyEvans.org. You can find multiple resources there. In addition to that, NationalChurchAdoptedSchool.org, you can find additional resources. Several books have been referenced, or resources that you can go to. Those resources are found on TonyEvans.org, as well as National Church Adopted School. There's a mentor starter kit. So if you're interested in a mentoring program, there's a mentor starter kit that you can purchase there, as well as a book that we produced that will help you if you're looking at outreach. It's the Kingdom approach towards social outreach. Both of these resources are fantastic that you can begin to use and start your partnerships with the schools that God may be sending you to. And so let's then just talk about maybe the resources that you all have used. So there's this mentoring opportunity, there's the adoption of school, and as I just talked about the resources that are available on the web, there's many trainings that have come out. So how have you used these resources to really have the success that you're having in your schools, both Susan and Bob? How have you used these resources?
Well, I mean, in a practical sense, I mean, the literal pathway that we'd use, I mentioned earlier, say it's through a semester.
Okay.
If I'm going to be meeting with these kids every Tuesday at 12:45 or whatever, it's nice to have a pathway with a block of questions about what do you might ask questions like, what do you consider a successful life?
Okay.
Tell me about that. What are you thinking about in college? What would happen next after high school? What's happening next week? So there's a whole series of questions that you can ask, and of course those were out of order, but those resources are there, so you don't have to go in empty-handed or have to get particularly creative, although that can come with it too. So the resources are there, and this orientation, all that we've talked about, is in the book, so to speak.
Okay. So then the application, you've used this book really as a guide to really, kickstart your ministry, and then are you using that also as a retraining tool for your volunteers and your staff to use
Absolutely.
it? Okay.
Yeah, we go through it, and they'll get copies of certain sections that's necessary or particular to their mentoring.
Okay, very good. And Susan,
We've used the same thing, and it really just provides a structure for as you're starting this, you're going to have questions. You're just going to, well, how often? And, the importance of open-ended questions, for example. I mean, these are things that, when we started, it was 3 adults and 4 children. We weren't this big, well-staffed, financed, church. It was a few of us, and who was going to be looking up, and it was going to be me.
Yeah.
So this is a go-to place for you to answer most of these questions that people are going to have who are interested in an initiative and an outreach like this. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you time. It's going to help train people up so that you can really focus on the heart of what your mission is. The heart of my mission is not to go research things and write a book. The heart of my mission is to be in front of a child who is struggling, right? And so you've done all the work. Your organization has done that, and I just encourage you to take advantage of it and to share this with others, because I'm telling you, we can get to be about it a lot quicker, and within a structure that has a spirit of excellence on it, that's proven, that's tried and true, without figuring it out on our own.
I'd like to add something that I'm particularly excited about. A lot of folks know about the Kingdom series that we've done, Kingdom Man, Kingdom Woman, and we just came out with Raising Kingdom Kids. But what I'm really excited about is at the first of the year, we will have mentoring manuals. So these are manuals that mentors can use with mentees that will walk them through the mentoring process. And we're looking at coming up with 3 different kinds of them. One is one you can use in school that takes in consideration all the sensitivities of church and state. There's one you can use as parents or in church or outside of school, which is thoroughly Christian. And then along with my son, Jonathan, who's working with us in his chaplain for the Cowboys, we will have an athletic one, because one of the greatest mentoring contexts is sports. So you can have coaches mentoring kids, not only in the, how to play your positions or play the game, but how to build character. And these will be manuals that folks can use. And we plan to have an elementary one, a middle school one, and a high school one.
Outstanding.
And we're trying to get the NFL teams to become mentors to high school players using these manuals. So we're looking at those be out the first quarter of next year.
Fantastic.
So we're excited about those as well.
All right, you heard it first here, first quarter of the year, so those should be coming to you. Now, in the event, again, you're following us on the web, go to #ChurchSchoolPartnership. But in the event you're not local and you can't participate in some of the trainings, we have 3 trainings that are coming up before the year end. And let me mention those to you while we're here. Tomorrow here at Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship, we will have a National Church Adopted School training that you can come. If you're in the local area here in Dallas, you can attend that training on tomorrow. On October the 24th, we will be in Gainesville, Florida at Santa Fe College. Again, that's October the 24th in Gainesville, Florida at Santa Fe College. And then November the 7th in Kinston, North Carolina, we will be at the Church of Faith and Deliverance. Again, that is November 7th, Kinston, North Carolina, the Church of Faith and deliverance. So we received a couple other responses from the audience, and we thank you, audience, for participating and sharing and sending us the questions. Let's talk about sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ on school campuses. We're on fire for the Lord, and we're excited about the entrance into that school campus. What are the boundaries and the parameters for doing that?
I've got a thought on that because I've worked with a group called Liberty Institute. I'm actually on their board also, and it's Kelly Shackelford's initiative, and they have spent a lot of time researching all the way to the Supreme Court. They've had several cases make it to the Supreme Court on this very equal access issue, and I think that's where you're heading.
Absolutely.
And I think that we have a lot more access to schools than we realize. I think there's been an unfounded fear that's sort of been elevated in our culture that says, well, schools, you can't touch it with anything religious, and that's not true.
That's right.
In a way, I understand the rules, and I'm not an expert at it, but after school, you can say the word Jesus on campus.
Right.
You can.
That's right.
And but the school has to be open to all initiatives that come in, so there's another side to that too. But there are lots of things that you can do, and but I think it's also important that we do respect the law in the context of this mentoring, not to be sneaky about it. I mean, if we're not supposed to be talking about religious things at lunchtime, then I would suggest we don't do that. But I would also suggest that we get creative and look for all those off-campus opportunities where we can, as Tony was referring to earlier, we can host a sports banquet, we can host a baccalaureate, we can host a parent dinner, we can invite the kids to Sunday church, we can invite the families to Sunday church, we can have activities at Sunday church, we can have nighttime, we can have someone can host something in their home, Monday through Friday, Saturday, whatever. So there's just lots of opportunities to do that if you can't specifically, and you want to be careful about and be respectful about the process and the law of the land. Okay. But I think there's a lot more access than and we should have more orientation of that. And I think that Bill's done a great job of helping us understand that, but there's a lot going on in that area.
Very good. Well, thank you for that. Susanna, you want to add to that?
Well, I guess our program is off campus.
Okay.
And so we're unique in that sense. After we left the lot, we outgrew the lot. We went to a church that was not being used, and there's so many churches. There's hundreds and hundreds of churches during the day not being used during that 3 to 6 time slot. So I'd encourage you to utilize these buildings for the glory of God. Dedicate that time, children's time, to God. It's a vulnerable time of day. So we were in a church, so we, of course, could preach the gospel. And then we outgrew that, and we were praying for a larger spot. And what God provided was a recreation center and a gym, a public building. So what we did is exactly what Bob said. We were full disclosure and said, here's who we are, here's what we do. We help children academically. We teach the gospel. We are Christian. We teach values. And a hot dinner. Everything was included, and we thought if they say no, then this isn't our place. This isn't what God has for us, but if it is. And I'm telling you, the need, there seems to be this apprehension of, is there a need, for us to be involved? The need is so great. They welcome you. One of our elementary schools that Reach for Hope has adopted has 700 children. Can you imagine? Our middle school has 700 children. The parent conference last night at the middle school, where there's 700 students, had 25 parents show up. Wow. So don't you think they're happy to see you and I show up?
Absolutely.
It's just a responsible, caring, loving person who's saying, I don't know what you need, but I know your need is great and I'm here.
Wow. Very good.
So we always preach the gospel.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's one thing with regards to the benefits and partnering with the schools. We're hearing a lot about the work with the youth. What can we do, and what can a church and or program do with the educators? What are opportunities there? Because it would appear that they need some love, they need some attention, they need some support as well. So let me start with you, Dr. Evans. What are ways that a ministry and a program, maybe their affinity would be to, in partnering with a school, maybe the benefits would be to some of the educators. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, we've been very excited to be able to host events on our campus for principals, superintendents, counselors. We make a breakfast for them key times throughout the year. We come and we let them know the services that we can provide to them. We let them know, is there anything we can pray for you for, because they have needs too in their own lives and their own families. Absolutely. We feed them breakfast, and then I present a devotional for them. And we've had many say, well, no, I don't know about the kids, but I need this. So we actually offer services to them. We go to the school and we meet with the superintendents or meet with the principals to find out, is there anything we can pray with you about? Because many of them are church people and are open to that on a personal level. So I think offering ministry and service to the educators who are many times overwhelmed with what they have to deal with is, again, an outreach, and we have not had one who have resisted that and rejected that. They have welcomed it. They have insisted that people come to it. We have some school districts who send their teachers over for training in our technology center. So we have this relationship, and so I think offering that on whatever level you can would be a welcomed offer by most.
Wow, that's great. Bob, or Suzanne?
I would just say some simple ways that our ministry has supported schools and specific educators and counselors. Counselors are a good contact for us once we're in the school because, here's my example. One of our school's counselors asked if we could provide hygiene items because there's a large homeless population within this school district. And as you know, if you stink, somebody's going to say something about you, and there's going to be a lot of teasing about it. And she deals with that a lot. And so the school runs out of money, and teachers run out of money. They use their personal money to provide these things, to go out and buy soap and deodorant. I mean, it sounds so basic. It is basic. But, instead of having the teacher spend the money or the counselor just saying to a child, I just don't have any, we've been able to provide that. The second thing is just a teacher appreciation bag, and it can be the simplest thing, little brown lunch sack that you're like a small group could make, or your women's ministry or children's ministry can do. A few goodies, candy, thank you, we appreciate you, the work you're doing is important. That's it. And we send it, and they love it. It's it's encouragement, right?
Great. That's great. That's good stuff.
Same.
Yeah,
same. We've had, even the principal has started attending our men's group on Wednesday morning. We had the head basketball coach as a result of 8 or 10 men going to the basketball games and getting to know him. And he started attending the men's group, and we find out all these at-risk kids on the team, and pretty soon you got guys lining up with them, and it just snowballs from there. So there's just all these kinds of opportunities to, and now in another group, taking donuts over the teacher's lounge, on Friday mornings, and there's another way to say, hey, we love it, we appreciate you, and keep going, and out of that comes relationships, and there's a lot of ways in, and I know the teachers really at least appear, and certainly counselors, and the principal is like, thank you. I mean, we just are so glad you're doing this. So.
We're going to have a few closing comments. Again, we thank you for joining us. We're going to ask Dr. Evans and Suzanne and Bob to give us some closing comments, and I want to give you the context for this closing comment. The holidays are coming upon us, and we oftentimes would see great needs, particularly as relates to Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. So there's an audience here who's present in the room, as well as audience listening to us and watching us on the web. Give them some nuggets of maybe some things that they can do between now and the end of the year, if it can be a starter for them to start this ministry and this partnership. And after you guys give your comments, I'll give a couple few closing statements and pray with us as we close. We'll start with you, Dr. Evans.
Well, we have coming up in a few weeks what we call Christ-giving. Christ-giving is our bridge between Thanksgiving and Christmas, so we kind of bonded them together. So we've asked counselors from our schools to give us X number of families from each school who we will surround with food, toys for the kids, and we'll do it on our campus. We'll share the gospel with them as part of that, and it's our way of saying to the counselor, you tell us who the most needy families are because you deal with them every day, and we will serve them in a way that says, we don't want you to miss Thanksgiving, we don't want you to miss Christmas, we don't want your kids to miss it either, and so that's what our church will do during this season.
Very good. Great.
Thanksgiving, a few years ago, we had a couple children say that they wanted to have a family Thanksgiving where you pass the plates. And that was meaningful to us, and that just showed us what a connection they have to a family. So it was this. So we said, okay, we're going to do it. And of course, it was 3 days before our last day before break, but we did it. And we made tables as long as we could make them, and we were all there, and we did pass the plates. And that was the first year. That was 4 years ago, I guess. And so now it's grown to this beautiful opportunity where various churches gather up donations, like each family gets a bag of groceries, and each child gets a new blanket, and each child gets a new pair of pajama pants. We have one elementary school in the suburbs who, through the fall, collects gently used shoes, and we bring all those. And we have these stations, and Chick-fil-A has been an amazing partner with ours, with us. They come weekly and feed our children, just as a sidebar. And when we have events like this, they manage the banquet.
Wow.
So it looks beautiful, and it's gracious, and the children respond to that. But it's a way for us to bless the children, reinforce that we are a family, and then bless their families too. Because it's painful to not have food at Thanksgiving. It's just one of the core things we celebrate at that holiday. It's been beautiful.
Thanks for sharing. That's a good story. Wow.
We'll do all of those similar things. We'll have an initiative for Thanksgiving. We actually have a team of people that take food to specific families. In fact, it's not just at Thanksgiving, but it's an ongoing, but that'll be elevated over the holidays in terms of how those families are resourced. We'll have an athletic banquet at the end of the football season, and so, the parents will come on campus. It'll have a Christmas orientation to it, so that'll all be happening, at the end of the fall. Yeah.
Well, God bless you all. Thank you for the work
you.
that you all have been doing.
Thank
What an
you.
exciting opportunity to serve the body of Christ. We're going to be praying for you all and pray continued success. Let's just talk about the resources that we mentioned a little bit earlier, so that if you want to reference those, we would encourage you to do exactly that. So a couple of web addresses that you want to follow. Let's go to www.tonyevans.org. You will find multiple resources there, as well as the National Church Adopted School website. We can be resourced there to see some of the things that you can reference. A couple of trainings that may be coming up in your neighborhood, the first of which will be tomorrow here in Dallas, Texas, at Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship Church, where Dr. Tony Evans is the senior pastor. Then on October the 24th, we will be in Gainesville, Florida at Santa Fe College. We would encourage you, if you're in that area, drive up to see us. We would love to see you in Gainesville, Florida. And then November the 7th in Kinston, North Carolina, we will be at the Church of Faith and Deliverance. We would love to see you there. We've referenced a couple of books and resources. We have those on the table here. Suzanne, if you would pass those to me, I want to lift those up for the viewing audience so that you can see those, as well as for the community that's here. We've mentioned the starting a school-based mentoring program. That's this here, and if you're interested in this, will be on the web and a resource for you that you can go and grab. This is 12 CDs. If you're interested in starting a mentoring program, this would be a great resource for you to be able to do that. In this resource are documents, process manuals, logic models, and work plans. It's really cut and paste for the most part. You can take this and resource your ministry to be able to start. Life Under God, another devotional book from Dr. Tony Evans. We would encourage you to look at this as well as on his website. You can do that. And then I've mentioned the Kingdom Agenda Approach towards Social Outreach. This manual as well. In the back, there is a DVD that you can use, and logic models, work plans, process manuals. We would encourage you to purchase this and use this as a starting and a launching pad for foundational work for you. God bless you real good. We thank you for being a part. We're going to ask Dr. Tony Evans to close us out in a word of prayer and blessings to each and every one of you.
Let's pray. Dear Father, thank you for the opportunity to serve you by serving your people and having your people serve others. Thank you for using the things that, God, you have allowed us to develop to make it available to others for their own use in their own communities, for their own impact. Lord, it is our desire that God be glorified and that Jesus Christ be exalted, that the gospel be proclaimed, and that souls be saved. And so as we seek to do that together, would you bless every ministry that is here live or that is on the internet participating with this special event, and allow them to make a difference for your kingdom and for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
God bless you.